See, this is what I'm talking about bad data-driven analysis. I don't know what wiki you're talking about, but let's say that you're right. Let's say that from 1980 to 1999, there were 16 titles that were irredeemably broken. And from the 2000s to 2019, there were 40 titles that were irredeemably broken. Let's say that's right. Let's just say that that's right. Do you know how many video games were released in 1980? Rough estimate, about 150 games. Do you know how many video games were released in 2019 alone? According to Steam, 7,316 games. Over 10,000 games have come out on Steam in 2023 so far. Video game production has more than doubled in the time periods that you've mentioned. It's increased by a factor of somewhere between 7 and 10. So if only 16 titles were released between 1980 and 1999 that were irredeemable, then first of all, you're only complaining about a fraction of the percent of games released back then. And of the games released now, it's an even smaller fraction. Because like I said, there were 10,000 games released already this year. Like, do you know how absurd it is to point toward 40 titles released in the last 20 years being irredeemable points toward people caring less? The video game industry is swamped with games right now. Between 1980 and 1999, there was the great video game crash of 1983. There was a period where people weren't even making many games. This isn't data-driven at all. And honestly, I'm just taking this as correct. I don't know what wiki you're talking about. It could have incorrect data. Like, okay, we have very accurate numbers for the amount of games that came out on Steam from 2000 to today. And you have to remember, like, back in 2004, only like 64 games came out on Steam, so it's not every game that came out. But if we take your 40 and make it a percentage of all the games that came out on Steam from the year 2000 to the year 2019, it would be 0.01% of all games are irredeemable. 0.01%. If we estimated that 1,000 games came out every year between 80 and 99, you're looking at 0.08%. 8 times as many irredeemable games. And that's such a stupid thing to say because it's such a low fraction of games to begin with. How could you be talking about these small fractions of games and say that this somehow points toward an industry trend of releasing more garbage games? Please look into what it means to be statistically significant, because this ain't it, Chief.